Get Sweaty with Leddy, a wellness program about pain management. Good morning and welcome to Get Sweaty with Leddy. We have a fantastic show for you today. Just popped open the hole down at the lake and you can see it's quite cold out. We have the coldest day here in Minnesota so far. It's about -3, feels like -18. Perfect for a cold plunge. But that's not all we're gonna do today. We have a fantastic guest that really means a lot to me. So let's come on inside and see who we're gonna talk to. All right, it feels good to be in this sauna because it is cold as can be outside. They're calling it a polar vortex, but it is not a polar vortex. It's pretty much just January,
it's just
right?
Cold, yeah.
But yes, today I have someone, as I mentioned, is very special to me. This is Dr. John Pietila. He is a chiropractic neurologist, and he is the reason why I am sitting here talking to everybody, talking about pain, because when I was introduced to you, Dr. J, I was a fraction of myself in screaming pain. Didn't think I was going to have an answer to get out of such nerve pain. And yet here we are, sitting in a sauna. A true Finn here as well, mind you. This got to feel at home to you.
Yeah, it feels great.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
We're here to talk about all this stuff, about how Dr. J helped me, how he helps others. But how did you get into the world of pain, Dr. J?
Well, first of all, baiva, thank you for having me.
Baiva.
Yeah. So yeah, most injuries or most people's stories start with a personal, story. So mine was, I was playing in the hayloft, fell, landed head down, twisted my back backwards, hyperextended it, and just had back pain ever since that I dealt with. Went to the chiropractor, got some relief, and then in college I was a hurdler, so I hit a hurdle real hard, and that's where I really was kind of a career-ending injury, and kind of could get back, but anytime I hurdled, just debilitating pain. So looking for that answer, I knew early on, I think I was in 4th grade, that I wanted to be a chiropractor, and it was just I knew I wanted to be a doctor, but going to the chiropractor and seeing that this guy had his own business, he set his own hours, he was his own boss, he didn't have to take insurance, he didn't have to deal with drugs and medication, that really fit with me. So I knew early on that's the path I wanted to follow, so I just followed that. Went to college, got my degree in biology, went on to chiropractic school, and then just trying to learn as much as you can. So I went around to all the different clubs at school and just tried to get as much information as I could from them. And that's where I kind of found some of the unique techniques that I do, the muscle testing, some of that stuff, and even the neurology found there. Really started kind of integrating it in together, which is why the NeuroTarget System is unique, because it's really this blend of all these techniques. It's not a strict, I do SOT, or I do flexion distraction, or I do diversified, or I do Thompson drop, or there's all these different chiropractic techniques. I just took things that I liked, and then lastly, the big piece of the puzzle was looking at the neurology and looking at how a technique works through that neurological lens. And most people think about the body as a structural, in alignment, out alignment kind of modality or a way of thinking about it, where I was looking at it neurologically. So how does that technique affect the brain? How does, what am I seeing? How is that manifested from the brain? And how do we make those changes? So that really that lens allowed me to look at things a lot differently than a typical chiropractor, or any doctor for that matter.
For sure. Ed, when you say typical chiropractor, when I tell people about you, sometimes people just be, it's like chiropractor is a bad word for some reason. But it's important to know that there are people that call themselves chiropractors, and then there are people that have to practice with a chiropractic license.
That's right.
And that's the category that you fall into, is having to practice with a chiropractic license, because you are completely different than the chiropractors that I was initially referred to in my early stages of fighting pain. You know, when I would first go and see somebody, they'd make sure to lock me in for 10 sessions.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I'm in there and I'm seeing them, and it's just kind of like a NASCAR setup where someone's going in there, all right, you're out, next one in, and it's just like, what?
Yeah.
Did we have even a conversation? Or
Yeah, and you're prepaying, you know.
Yeah. It was whereas, you know, when I go and see you, I mean, I could just see the wheels turning and try to how you're going to attack my problem specific to me, and I just knew right out of the gate that it was going to be a different experience, and it was.
And try to figure it out as fast as possible. Like, what's the fastest route to get you there? And I like how you said that, because chiropractic, for me, is a tool that I use to do neurology. And in order to use that tool, I have to be a licensed chiropractor. So
amazing.
But I wouldn't. I mean, I'm a chiropractor, but really I'm a functional neurologist, is what I like to say.
Right. And functional healing is what I'm all about. And, you know, to break it down, when I talk to other people, I say, you know, Dr. J, he's making sure that the communication between your brain, your nerves, and your muscles are firing so that they can protect yourself. Because if you've got a broken chain in the system here, now my knee is vulnerable or my back is vulnerable because my brain can't send the message to my nerves that something's about to happen, and then all of a sudden, poof, an injury arises.
Yeah, and your brain knows when something's not working, and that's where you get these compensation patterns starting to layer on, and you get tight muscles because that's compensating for some other area that's not working, and right. And so, it's interesting when you kind of look at, just for example, if we took a baby and looked at the brain, like it would have a nice brain structure, but not a lot of function. And what happens is gravity starts pulling on that baby, and it starts stimulating all the receptors and all the different joints, and that starts creating feedback into the brain. And it's critical to think about that, because light is a stimulus to the brain, but sometimes it's light and sometimes it's dark. And sound is a stimulus, but sometimes it's loud, sometimes it's quiet. Touch is a stimulus, and sometimes you have tight clothes, sometimes you have loose clothes, right? Sometimes you have vibration, sometimes you have pain. So most of the stimulus modalities are intermittent. They're not constant, but gravity is constant. It never goes away. So our brain has a very intimate relationship with the gravity receptors in our body, i.e. the joint receptors. So what does that mean? Chiropractic is actually the most powerful way of stimulating the brain, because that's exactly what an adjustment does, is stretches those joint receptors and fires very powerfully into the brain. If I tell you, you know, the color red, and I want you to remember that, doing an adjustment is like telling you that same thing 100 times in a row. Like, that's how powerful that adjustment is to the brain. And when I say red, it's a small stimulus, but you can remember that, right? So that means your brain actually made a change in the way the neurons are firing, so you can remember that. Well, think about doing that 100 times in a row, like how powerful that is. And if I can do 6 or 7 adjustments in one visit, like that's a massive change in brain function.
Yeah, totally. And you know what I always used to enjoy is I whenever I get an adjustment from you, whenever I see you, I'm getting benefits like each day afterwards. It's almost like working out in a sense, right? If I'm gonna go and do a bunch of push-ups, I'll feel patterns after that. You know, I'm gonna feel soreness, and then I'm gonna feel strength.
Yeah,
and
in places you never felt it before. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's basically you're turning on things that are shut off due to those compensation patterns. So if I'm laboring my knee, you know, all of a sudden there's muscles around that aren't working because I'm not fully functioning my knee over here. So when I go and I'm seeing you, all of a sudden you're figuring out muscles that are firing and that aren't firing, and getting that proper feedback, and then turning everything on.
That's right.
So that my body can protect me.
Yeah, and it can, I'm going to say move backwards, but it can move backwards into more of a normal pattern of movement, which then changes the whole integration of how the brain is living off of the feedback from the body. So when you move differently, that does change your brain, and that's why you feel that like days going forward, you keep feeling differences, because your brain is literally changing from your own feedback. And that's why it's important to do, you know, supportive types care, because when I lift a weight, that stimulus will take 7 to 10, even up to 14 days to actually cause a measurable change in the muscle, right? When I do an adjustment, I can immediately go back and measure the change. So this neural integration it's quick. That's what I love about neurology. So, but you do need that supportive care for those soft tissue changes, for that healing. But if you can heal on a platform that's balanced, it's going to go so much faster.
I love it. Yeah, I've had, and I can just attest to this because it was my life for 10 years, I think, or maybe even more, a little over 10 years, probably like 11 now that you've been in my circle of pain is what I call it. That's people that are in my tight knit of trustworthy wellness capabilities. You know, when people ask me, what do I do? What do I do? I mean, Dr. J is the first person to come out of my mouth, but he's not the only thing. That's because athletes don't have just one person that they're working with. They're working with a network team of people that are going to specialize in certain things that are going to enhance your body. You know, it's not just an oil change. You got to get body work done. You need to do more than just one thing. And that's the beauty of, you know, sitting on the bench here with you today. Is just this is step one in expanding this circle of pain, you know, to other people.
Yeah, and I would say that's exactly what I do. Like, I'm not the one-stop shop. If you strained your hamstring, I'm not the one that's going to heal that. You have to heal, but I can set up the platform to take the stress off of that hamstring, to allow it to heal, and also to prevent you from continuing to strain it. Then if you apply ARP wave therapy or ultrasound or massage or ART or cupping or kinesiotaping or whatever you want, that actually accelerates that healing process. And we do some of that stuff in our office, but our main thing is like, first we have to get rid of that underlying cause of why you're hurting. And if we can do that, then you'll heal really quickly. And your whole book goes over all the different surgeries you had, all the different things you tried to get relief, but it was always short-lived, and you always hurt yourself again because that same underlying imbalance was continuing to cause those problems, and it kept layering the next dysfunction on top of the next one and on top of the next one. And how many years did you do that, you know?
It took a long time for me to understand the proactive side of taking care of myself. You know, we're always taught to just be reactive. And it's like, okay, I'm in pain. I got to go do something about it.
Yeah.
And for a few years, I'd go and I'd see you and I would get care. But I did lack that drive to take it a step further and really fix myself. And, you know, it wasn't until around 2020, 2021 when I made that conscious effort to do that and would see you more regularly, improve my diet, improve my exercise routine. But then I also found a bodywork specialist to work with that was way better than any massage therapist that I work with. And it's important to just not settle, you know?
That's right.
I knew that I had to find something to add to the repertoire. And, you know, that's ultimately like what I've done and what I like to share in my book. And I can't share all of that in the sauna here right now because it's a book's worth.
I've read your book, so
yeah. When it comes to taking care of yourself, you know, you see there's let's say 100 people come in and they see you. What is the rough percentage of people that are doing the right things post appointment to take care of themselves?
I would say the percentage is fairly low, you know, maybe 10. A lot of people think they're doing the right thing. For example, stretching is one of the things. I'm not a big fan of stretching. I mean, our whole philosophy revolves around force absorption. Mm-hmm. So when you stretch a muscle, what are you doing but putting your body in an awkward position that your brain doesn't really understand what's happening, and then you're applying force to the joint. And if your muscle isn't firing, it's not absorbing that force. So that force is shunting off to the tendons and ligaments, stretching and weakening them, right? So in this whole philosophy, stretching actually prepares you to get injured.
Yeah.
And we've seen that with teams over and over. The ones that stretch the most have the most injuries. The ones that do more of a dynamic type warm-up have a lot less injuries. There's studies on runners where they stretched and they actually ran slower. There's studies on elderly where they had like a 80% increased chance of falling down after stretching. So there's this inhibition that occurs. So people that think they're helping themselves by waking up every morning, stretching out, you know, I'm not sure. I mean, no, there is a percentage of people that actually get benefit from that. So there's always exceptions, but I think that's a good example of something people think they're doing to help support their health,
Right.
but really they're making it worse.
For
right?
sure,
So,
for sure. And I've known that, and I guess what I use as the term is like I turn my body on
Yeah.
by loosening in the morning. And, there's a bit of a stretching component to that, but it's more of a resistant stretching. It's more of
Exactly.
a workout.
It's like an active
I'm
stretch.
working out the muscles.
In a lengthened position.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. None of that static stretching where you're just, that is just, a ticking time bomb. And you can do it wrong. I've hurt my lower back by, thinking I'm getting a great stretch in, but I'm actually just doing damage. And then I'll be in pain, a day or so later, and I'll be like, oh, what the did I just do? You know? So being intentional with your movement is key, and getting involved with someone like yourself who can help guide those movements. That's what you got to do.
Yeah. I mean, and if you think about it, if you want to be able to touch your toes, you have to teach your muscles to move your body into that position. So if you stretch down there and you can reach your toes, your muscles still don't really comprehend how in the heck you got there and how to get out of there either.
Right.
So if you're trying to play hockey then and you bend too far and you get into that position, you kind of almost panic, and that's when you pull that hamstring.
Yeah.
Right? Or you pull your quad or something.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
that's I think it's a perfect example right there. So
Wow. Well, we've got to throw a log in this fire
All
here,
right,
so let's put
let's
these
get
mics down for a moment and log it up.
let's get some heat going, yeah.
Oh, it's nice to toss a couple logs on there because we're cooking,
Yeah,
and
now
that's
it's
gonna
heating up.
it's gonna put us in a prime position for that cold plunge.
Yeah.
When we're all ready for it. To continue on what we were chatting about earlier, I've always wondered where I stand in the ranks of pain, and I actually, when I was writing my book, I tried to reach out to the surgeon who performed my 3 ACL surgeries because I wanted to know, hey, like, where do I stand as far as your fastest comebacks? Because my first ACL surgery, people that haven't read my book don't know this, I had my first ACL surgery on November 4th, 1995. Yeah, that's right. November 4th, 1995. And I played in a full contact hockey game on December 27th after a torn ACL. I mean, I got to feel like that's like up there, right?
A miracle, right?
But I didn't have that opportunity to ask him. It was kind of a bummer. But I do have the opportunity to ask you, where do I stand in the ranks of people in pain that are coming to see you?
It would have been interesting to see that same recovery with you in balance. That would have been amazing. But, everyone that knows you, I mean, you're a little different. You're a little more stubborn. You have a lot of drive, right? So what do you do when you get hurt? Keep driving, right? You keep going ahead and getting injured again. And what you're doing is you're layering one more injury on top of the next one, right? And so by the time you got to me, I mean, I don't even know how many layers deep you were at that point.
It was a lot of layers.
You were kind of up there as far as like one of the worst, right? Where most people don't have your drive. They get hurt, they're kind of like, I guess I'm done. And they kind of have 1 to 2 injuries, maybe 3 that they're layering, and we can reverse that fairly quickly. So for you, it did take a lot more time. You probably noticed that we were working on one area, that thing all of a sudden started getting better, and then it was like something new came up, and it's like it was there all along. It was a lower priority for you. And so you peel those layers off, and I always think of it kind of like regressing backwards through your injury history as we're resolving those compensation patterns and fixing that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, going through that was like a blast through time. I had forgotten about certain injuries or certain pain, and then all of a sudden we're going through everything, and it's like, oh yeah, I did mess up my shoulder pretty good at that point. I forgot about my separated AC joints when I was playing up in Canada.
And it's kind of fun hearing those stories from you too, when you're like, all of a sudden it like clicks with you that you did hurt something and it healed, right?
Yeah.
But it didn't.
Yeah.
It's still there. And most people, when they think they're healing from an injury, what they're really doing is they're just learning how to compensate for the injury better and better and better.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important to be able to recognize your pain and treat the injury right away, because you will get this false belief that it's healed when in actuality you've just figured out how to compensate for it. And then injuries will just, if you had an injury on the left, now it's going to go to the right. Once you get that good, now it's going to go back to the left. And just boom, 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 boom.
And I would like to add to that too, by treat the injury. Like, that's what's unique about the NeuroTarget system, is really getting to the underlying mechanism that set you up to cause the injury. You know, when you think about injuries, there's the trauma, right? You get hit by a car, or you fall off your house, or you get checked into the boards and you injure yourself. You know when you got hurt, right? That force came in, you couldn't absorb it, you got injured. And then there's the other injuries where you were just going out for a run, you were just putting your plate on the counter, you were, just turning, and boom, you get injured. Those injuries, they're not explained. And those are the ones that occur because of an imbalance in the way your nervous system is controlling your body. And unfortunately, the trauma ones, even though you know what caused your injury, sets you up for this other type with this timing of the nervous system firing. And once that occurs, you can't get healthy, because every time you do something, you get another injury, because your body's in this constant state of compensation, and it's just one injury after another. And that's exactly what was happening to you. You thought you were healing up, but you were just shifting the force somewhere else until another thing gave out, right?
Yeah.
And so if we could have, I was a senior in high school in 1995, so I wouldn't have been able to help you then. But if we could have got those muscles firing and got everything going, you may have continued your career injury-free.
It hurts me to think about that. It really does. But that's what this is all about right here. Maybe we can prevent someone from going down the path of, you got to just be tough, deal with it,
suck it
play
up,
through it,
wipe some sand on it.
That is not the case right now. It's just so important to recognize that.
I got hired to go to Salzburg, Austria, to work with Pierre Paget and the Red Bull hockey team.
Sweet.
So there was 56 players there. I'm like, I'll see all of them, right? So they all came in. 54 of them failed the test.
Wow.
And out of that, probably 52 of them actually had complaints of some nagging injury that they could just never seem to get around.
Crazy.
So high. Just think about an NHL team. If they could have every athlete on the ice feeling great for every game, how much better they would play. Even if they're not a better team or they don't have better coaching, like, they're just going to play better, because the way the brain really absorbs force is it's this proactive system, right? You're predicting what you're going to need to do milliseconds before you have to do it. And so that's like when you're playing hockey, and you've probably been in the zone where you're one step ahead of the puck, right? That's that proactive system.
Yep.
Everyone that's out of balance is 2 steps behind, and if you can be 3 steps ahead of someone, there's no chance, right?
I think of from like a perfect example from a Minnesota athlete is Byron Buxton for the Minnesota Twins. He's an incredible athlete, but he just cannot stay healthy.
Right.
There's got to be an imbalance.
He's out of balance
in his body, and it's unbelievable that it can continue on at that high of a level. You've been at the high level for such a long time. You're a trainer for Italy's World Cup team when they were at Brazil. You're a trainer for Fiorentina, a Serie A soccer club. Like, what did you see there, even at that high level?
It's the same story. If you can keep your top players on the field fresh, they're going to play really, really well. And if AC Milan's top player is injured on the side, he's no good to that team at all. We talked about this briefly a little bit earlier, but Fiorentina had this really cool, I didn't even realize they were doing it until after, but they were buying up the old, almost retired, injured, kind of worthless players at that point. And I would put them in balance. We'd use the ARP on them. We'd start training them and stuff. They actually, because of all the experience they had, when they got back out on the field, could play phenomenally. They could see everything. They could kick. They could do everything. And they felt good, which, what happened was that raised their value. So the team was able to actually sell that player off and make money. And then they could buy a couple more of these injured players.
It's like a triple benefit. Yeah. Not only they get the benefit of the player, and then they get the benefit of the cash of the player, and then they get more players after that.
The entire budget for the Fiorentina team that I played for was less than the top paid player for AC Milan, one player. And yet we were still in the top 3 of the Italian Serie League. We played in the Champions League and made it to the very final match against Bayern Munich. And a small team making it that far, there's got to be more than just, heart or something.
Right. No, that's wild. And I wish more athletes could experience you.
Yeah.
I mean, you're working with the Seattle Kraken right now
That's
of the
right.
NHL, so you're obviously doing something right. Yet it's hard for people to just make that decision to make the effort.
leap, yeah, and just try it and see what happens. I mean, worst case scenario, I can't find anything wrong with you, and I don't do anything, and I tell you that, and then I give you some ideas of maybe where you could go to look for some answers.
And at that point, at least it's a box that's been checked.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But a lot of people go in and they don't even know what thing to check, and they're getting things checked that they checked off that it's not even necessary.
Yeah.
You might be putting them in a worse position.
Yeah, and I would say a lot of people come in, they have very poor body awareness. And that's the thing, is when I start working with people over the months or years or however long we work with them, they really get in touch with their body, their position, how they feel, and they can tell immediately, like when it goes out of balance, and they can come in and get that corrected. And it's usually like, oh, just one little thing shut down, we turn it back on, they're good to go for a long time. And then at that point it becomes, what can we do to keep this from happening? What's the cause? Is it the way you're sitting at work? Is it your pillow? Is it what you're eating? Is it how you're exercising? Is it just a congenital imbalance that you were born with, and we need to give you exercises to drive that part of your brain or whatever? We're always looking for that thing, like what's going to keep you there?
For me, a lot of it, I felt like I would throw myself out when I was sleeping, or if I was in the car for a long time, or if I was sitting down at work for a long time.
It's like that not movement, right? You're not driving your brain anymore, so it's settling down until you're finally out of balance.
Sometimes I like to use the term UAP, or unidentified awkward position. You might just be leaning over and doing something to the dishes, but you're all janked up and twisted, and you don't even know it. And then you think about it, you're like, oh, what am I doing?
What am I doing?
And then you can center yourself and do it the right way. But think of, like, the next time you're doing something simple, think about how you're doing it. Are you doing it in good form? Are you in some unidentified awkward position that might be triggering something bad?
That's right.
When I am out, I definitely know it.
You can tell.
And I definitely know when I'm back in. And for me, from a training standpoint, I'm not lifting weights. I haven't lifted a weight. I haven't picked up a weight in over 12 years. I use what you've described, the ARP machine. Now, I haven't talked about that much in any of my episodes, and we're going to have a full episode on that in the future. But briefly, could you what is the ARP machine, and how do you use it as a tool to help athletes?
Yeah, so we don't do a lot of strengthening with the ARP. We're more focused on this acute and chronic pain and getting people out of pain, and then giving them the tools, to get out of our office. So we don't do a lot of strengthening. But the ARP is a unique machine because the current that it creates is harmonious with healthy tissue. It's a direct current. Now, almost every other electrical stim device is an alternating current. So if you want to charge the battery up in your truck, you can't just put any old current into that battery. You have to put the current that's harmonious with that battery voltage, right? So same thing with the body. If you want to affect the cells and the tissues in our body, you have to put a current in the body that's harmonious with the body. Now, the cool thing about the ARP is you put it on, you start sliding those pads around, and when you get to an area where there's unhealthy tissue, like scar tissue or inflammation, that's a resistance, and the current can't flow through there. And your body knows that injury's there, and when it senses current in that unstable area, you react, and that's the reaction we look for. And that actually helps us locate the spots where we need to place the pads. Then we crank it up, to say it crudely, I guess, and then we make you move. And you got to move through these patterns. And so, one, the current's breaking down the scar tissue, and the movement is pulling those bonds apart so they can't go back together. And then two, that amplification of that signal of what you feel really amplifies your movement. So as you move correctly, we're retraining your body out of that compensation pattern. So then once you break that, we turn it up until you go back into your compensation pattern.
Seize mode.
And then we make you move until you break free of it.
Yeah.
And then we turn it up, and we just keep raising that bar and breaking down that tissue and driving a ton of blood in there. When you injure your body, you're literally ripping tissue. And what your body will do is lay down scar tissue to reinforce that. And unfortunately, that scar tissue blocks blood from getting into that area. So you can't heal at that point. You just learn to compensate for it. Breaking down that wall with the ARP allows blood in there, which allows that healing process to actually occur. So we could search over your whole body and find any place you've ever been injured in your whole life, because it's still trapped there by that scar tissue.
Yep. I love doing those types of rehab sessions in my basement. I do them a lot for my knee, my ankles, and my back. And whenever my back is hurting, it's my obliques are the hot spot, you know.
Yeah,
and that's
I'm
rotating, I'm twisting over there.
Your back is the compensation.
Yeah, and it's probably because I'm locked up from my spondylolisthesis, where my spine fuses itself together. I don't have the best movement, so when I'm not moving well, I get messed up in my obliques, then all of a sudden I'm feeling it in my low back.
Yeah.
When you're using the ARP, it doesn't feel good.
No.
But it's the
intense.
type of pain that preludes relief. And if you're someone that is in a great deal of pain, when it comes to the ARP, or when it comes to intense body work, the more that you can withstand, the better results that you're going to get.
Yeah. Yep. To a point, because if you get to the point where you're locked up and you literally can't break through it, then you're a diminishing return at that point. But you were kind of talking about the training, and that's also unique in that one of the things we like to look for is where's that weakest position, right? And so bench press is easy to understand. Everybody's got the sticking point.
Yeah.
That's the position you want to train in, because that's the weakest spot. And if you can train there, it's going to help your whole bench press. But the thing, if you put the ARP on and you train there, now instead of holding that sticking point for 45 seconds or whatever, you can do it for 5 minutes. So now how many sessions are you getting? Like 7-8 sessions of training, like in that one, right? So we can accelerate that process. You can get a week's worth of training done in one session.
And, you know, one of the main things I know when I'm out of balance is when I'm ARPing and I'm not feeling the electrical charge running through my body properly. After I go and I see you, I have if I'm doing a wall sit, it's like I am
even.
It's like I'm the world's strongest man.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is just every muscle is working. It's firing. It is supporting me, and I can feel it. And then after the workout, I can even feel it even more in my legs, and it's just fantastic.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm out of balance, I have to work a little harder. I have to concentrate. I got to be like, fire left leg, fire, you know, be like my right leg. So it's very interesting to notice.
But those are the things you got to watch for, because that's your sign, right? Yeah. And then, you know, you got to come in and get an adjustment, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And it's not like, okay, I got to run in there every month and get adjusted. I mean, when was the last time you were down in my office?
Yeah, I mean, it was probably like earlier this year, maybe like a year ago.
2024.
2024. Yeah, it was. And that's in part where, you know, I've seen you for better part of 11 years, and part of it is I've got to go and I want to see what else there can be to help people, because, you know, people come and see you from all over the state, all over the country, and I would recommend anybody to do so, but it might not be feasible for everybody, so I'm trying to explore elsewhere. But, you know, I recently went down a few weeks ago playing hockey, and, you know, I can't wait to see you next week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And for me to know that I have somebody that can take care of me, I can sleep better at night. That's adding so much quality sleep when I don't have to be
anxious over
thinking about the future of my pain, you know?
Yeah.
Because when you're thinking about your pain, now your pain is controlling you.
You're making it worse.
You're being in more pain. Yeah. So it's just, I can't stress enough the importance of recognizing your body and putting yourself in a position where you can heal. And the first place that you can do that is with someone like Dr. J, your NeuroTarget System.
And then that allows for the other things you want to do, cold plunge, ARP, massage, all that stuff will work really, really well.
Yeah.
I mean, I've healed so many injuries in a week, you know, unbelievable things happening, right? And just, I mean, everybody's like, no, that's impossible. They must have not been injured. In fact, the doctor at Fiorentina would have to downgrade all of his diagnosis. So if someone had a grade 3 hamstring tear, he would have to downgrade that to a 1 or a 2, because they literally were better so much faster that the people would be like, this doctor's an idiot. There's no way that was a grade 3 if he's back, you know, that fast.
Yeah.
So it's pretty incredible.
Wow. That's just awesome.
Yeah.
And you're right. Speaking of cold plunge.
Oh, boy.
I think it's time. Believe it or not, Dr. J, a Finn, has never cold plunged.
No, I've laid in the snow. Yeah, but that's different.
We're going to give him experience number 1. So let's go have some fun.
All right, let's give it a try.
All right. to get our plunge on. Woo! We got our first timer over here. It's a good one for him. Coldest day of the year so far. I think I got a little mini layer of ice to break. So that's always fun. Hopefully I don't cut my foot up a little bit, but you never know. Yep, look at that. She's freezing up pretty good right now. Hopefully I got it good where I didn't cut myself, but you never know. Let's go.
Oh, that looks brutal.
Yes. There's a rug underneath. Remember? Yep.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But breathe slow. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Good job.
This is brutal.
Yeah, it's brutal.
This is way colder than rolling in the snow.
You heard it here first, snow rollers. Just a lovely little January day.
January day.
Just a little January day. Put your face in, get those wrinkles.
I don't think I can do that. Oh God.
Yeah.
All right, you good?
Yeah, let's do it, yeah. All right. That was a good first plunge.
I like to get the back of my neck here.
Ah, it feels so good. A little sticky to that ladder.
Nice coming out. It actually is warm getting out.
It's right? Now we're good. Success. Boom. Let's get to that sauna. Well, we're a little sweatier than normal after a return from a sauna or a cold plunge, but that's because we had to wait for the camera and the stand to unfreeze.
That's right.
Because of how damn cold it is out there.
Yeah, it froze up.
So how did you feel, Dr. J? How was your first cold plunge?
Well, you got to just go for it. So I did, no matter what it felt like. But after about the first 15 seconds, I calmed down. I felt pretty good about it. So yeah.
So you understand the magic a little bit of it,
yeah.
right?
And then to add to that, even getting back in here, you get the tingling all over your whole body. It just feels like I'm 17 again and ready to go kick some ass, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I love cold plunging in the start of the day, because it really does give you that energy boost for the rest of the day. I mean, you feel like you can take on the world.
That's right.
Hell yes. I'm glad that we were able to share that together. I'm glad that we were able to share this experience together, because everybody needs to know what you do and how you can help. And I'm grateful that I can introduce the world to you, because like I said, there are not too many better people in the world out there that can help you heal other than Dr. J right here. And I would encourage any and all of you to reach out if you are finally ready to get rid of pain and take back your life.
That's right.
What's the best way to I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, to reach me?
Yeah.
Well, we've got the website, ntchiro.com. You can also search for NeuroTarget Chiropractic. We are on Facebook, although I don't post a lot. There's a lot of liability with that of being a healthcare provider. So mostly just check out our website, and you can go, we have an online scheduler you can get to right from there. You can set up that 60-minute new patient appointment. Our intake forms automatically email out. It's a seamless process. So we have 2 docs at the clinic, myself and Dr. Jennifer Ingesether, both highly trained in the NeuroTarget system and additional therapies that we can offer there. So yeah, give it a try. You got nothing to lose. I think our fees are very, very reasonable. We're in it to help people. We're not in it to strike it rich. We want to help people. We want to spread the system. We want to just get people back to doing what they love, because they can go out and change the world, and that's our mission right there.
That's right. That's right. You said it best. You have nothing to lose, but I'd like to add that you have everything to gain simply by investing some time into your wellness. So with that, I want to thank you for tuning in to another episode of Get Sweaty with Leddy.
Nekamin.
I wish I got to brush up on my Finnish.
Yeah.
Next time I'll have something for you.
That means goodbye.
Nekamin?
Yeah.
Nekamin, y'all. Until next time.